I remember the sweat dripping down my skin, but it was not from the treadmill, nor from any workout at the gym. My husband believed I was lifting weights and pushing through another intense routine. In reality, I was pressed against the crisp white sheets of a hotel bed, Jason's hands gripping my waist with a hunger that had nothing to do with fitness. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. The screen lit up with Mark's name. He thought I was bettering my body. He had no idea I was betraying his trust in the most physical, reckless way possible. Before I dive deep into this story, I want to pause for a moment and say a big thank you. To all my new and returning viewers, I am deeply grateful that you are here. Your support fuels this channel. If you are yet to subscribe, I cannot wait for you to hit that button because it truly is the energy that keeps us going. Remember to share your thoughts in the comments as soon as you finish listening to the hook. Your reactions mean everything, and I promise you, this story will leave you stunned. Now let us step deeper into my secret life. Mark, my husband, is everything a woman should want. He is 35, strong but gentle, disciplined yet affectionate, a man who works tirelessly as a financial consultant to provide for us. We have been married for 7 years, and from the outside, our life looks almost perfect, a home in a quiet suburb of Ohio, 2 kids who light up our world, weekend barbecues with neighbors, and a rhythm that many couples would envy. But inside me, something was missing. I craved intensity. I craved fire. I craved to be wanted not as a wife, not as a mother, but as a woman. That craving found its answer at the gym. Jason was my trainer. He was 34, tall, with a lean, muscular build that carried the kind of careless confidence that instantly drew people in. His smile was wicked, the kind that felt like both a promise and a warning. At first, it was harmless flirting, his hand lingering on my back to correct my form, his eyes lingering longer than necessary on my body, his voice lowering when he whispered encouragements during squats or presses. But harmless never stays harmless. One rainy Tuesday morning, while Mark thought I was finishing a workout, Jason invited me for a post-training smoothie. Instead, I found myself in his truck, the windows fogged, my breath caught between guilt and desire. That was the first time I betrayed my vows. And from that moment, my gym bag became my cover for sin. The more I slipped away, the deeper I fell. Jason was reckless where Mark was careful, daring where Mark was steady. With Jason, I felt like a teenager again, sneaking kisses in parking lots, laughing in places we should not, touching when the risk of being seen was dangerously high. Each moment made me feel alive, but with every touch, I was digging myself deeper into a hole of lies. I told Mark I was attending more spin classes. I showed him fake calorie burn results from apps. I even went as far as buying extra gym clothes to prove my routine. He looked at me with admiration, believing I was dedicated to health and fitness, when the truth was I was dedicated to another man's arms. One night, after a long session with Jason in a downtown hotel, I came home later than usual. My hair was wet from a rushed shower, and I carried the faint scent of hotel soap. Mark was waiting in the kitchen. He had prepared a late dinner for us. His eyes softened when he saw me, and he said, "You are working so hard on yourself. I am proud of you." His words struck me like a knife. My chest burned, but not with pride. It was shame. I smiled, kissed his cheek, and forced myself to sit and eat. Inside, however, I was trembling, terrified that he might notice the rawness on my lips or the redness on my skin. The secret life was thrilling, but the danger of it was suffocating. Every text I sent Jason had to be deleted. Every phone call cut short if Mark entered the room. Every lie I told was a thread that could unravel my entire life. Jason, on the other hand, did not seem to care. He enjoyed the secrecy. He thrived on the adrenaline of knowing I was sneaking away from a stable husband just to be with him. Sometimes he even teased me, whispering things like, "What would Mark say if he knew what you let me do to you this morning?" His words sent chills down my spine, half excitement, half dread. I should have stopped. I should have walked away. But once you taste forbidden fruit, it is never the same. The danger grew one Friday evening. Mark called me while I was with Jason. The phone vibrated on the nightstand, the screen glowing brightly. Jason smirked, urging me not to answer. But the ringing kept echoing, and panic rushed through me. I grabbed the phone, stepped into the bathroom, and tried to sound calm. "Hey honey," Mark said, his voice warm. "Do you mind picking up some milk on your way home from the gym?" My heart hammered. "Of course, I will," I replied, trying to keep my breath even. When I hung up, I looked at myself in the mirror. My hair was messy, my lipstick smeared, my body marked by another man's touch. That was the moment I realized how close I was to being caught. One wrong move, one wrong word, and my perfect facade would collapse. That night, as I slid into bed beside Mark, he wrapped his arms around me and kissed my forehead. I closed my eyes, but tears stung the corners. He trusted me. He loved me. And I was betraying him in the worst way possible. I told myself it would end soon. I promised myself it was the last time. But deep down, I knew I was lying, to him, to Jason, and to myself. Because the next time I said I was going to the gym, Jason was already waiting. And I was already on my way. The deeper I sank into the affair, the harder it became to balance the two worlds I had created. On one side was Mark, my husband, steady as the earth itself, building a life for us with patience and loyalty. On the other side was Jason, a storm of passion that made me feel alive in ways I had not felt in years. I was not just walking a dangerous line anymore, I was dancing on it, blindfolded, with fire at my heels. Jason had started to want more. At first, he was content with stolen hours in his truck or quick hotel escapes. But soon, he began to press harder, asking me questions that made my chest tighten. "When are you going to leave him?" he asked one afternoon as we lay tangled in sheets, sweat still drying on our bodies. His tone was playful, but his eyes were serious. I laughed nervously, brushing it off. "You know that is impossible. I have kids, a home, a life with him." Jason leaned closer, his voice low. "But you have me too. And you know you want this more than anything else." He was not wrong. The truth was, when I was with him, everything else faded. The guilt, the fear, even the love I once felt for Mark, it all drowned beneath the wave of desire Jason stirred in me. Yet when I returned home, the weight of what I was doing crushed me. Mark was beginning to notice the distance. He asked why I smiled less at dinner, why I spent more time checking my phone, why my eyes seemed distracted even when I was sitting across from him. I told him I was tired from workouts, from pushing my body at the gym. He accepted the answer, but I could see the doubt starting to form. The cracks were spreading, and I could feel them. One Saturday, while Mark took the kids to the park, I told him I had a special training session. Instead, I drove to Jason's apartment. The moment I stepped inside, Jason pulled me against him, his lips crashing onto mine. The hunger between us burned hotter with every encounter, as if knowing we could lose everything made us cling even tighter. But after, as I lay there, Jason's arm across my stomach, I felt the shame heavier than before. I thought of my children laughing at the park with their father, unaware that their mother was betraying him miles away. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. "Are you thinking about him again?" Jason asked, his tone sharp. I turned to him, startled. "No, I am not." But the truth was written all over my face. Jason sat up, frustration flashing in his eyes. "You cannot keep living in two worlds forever. One day he is going to find out, and then what? You think he will forgive you? You think he will let you stay after what you are doing?" His words pierced me. I had no answer. The lies multiplied like weeds. If I stayed late at work, I blamed traffic. If I came home sweaty and flushed, I claimed the spin class had been brutal. I even started carrying an extra water bottle in my car, just to sell the story. But paranoia grew inside me. Every time Mark glanced at my phone, I felt a surge of fear. Every time he kissed me, I wondered if he could taste another man's presence. I began deleting every message from Jason, every photo, every hint that could betray me. Jason hated it. Why do you erase everything? Are you ashamed of me? He snapped one day. It is not about shame, I said. It is about survival. Survival, he repeated with a bitter laugh. You act like this is a war. I am not the enemy. I am the one you want, remember? He was right again, and that was the problem. The turning point came when one of my closest friends, Emily, spotted me. I had told Mark I was heading for an evening yoga session. Instead, I slipped into Jason's car, parked near the back of the gym lot. What I did not realize was that Emily was walking past with her husband. She waved, smiling at me. I waved back nervously, praying she would not notice that I was climbing into the passenger seat of a car that was definitely not Mark's. Later that night, she texted me. Hey, I thought you were going to yoga. I saw you at the gym lot, but it looked like you were getting into someone's truck. Is everything okay? My stomach dropped. I crafted a lie in seconds. Oh, that was just a trainer from the gym giving me a ride to grab a smoothie. I was running late. She replied with a thumbs up emoji, but I could feel her suspicion lingering. If she told Mark, my entire life could shatter. Jason's demands grew heavier. He wanted me on weekends. He wanted trips, not just hidden moments. One night, he looked at me and said, I am tired of being your secret. Either you give me more, or I walk away. Panic flooded me. The thought of losing him felt unbearable, even though I knew I should have wanted exactly that. He had become my addiction, and the threat of losing my fix sent me spiraling. But Mark, unknowingly, was closing in. One evening, as I showered after returning home late, Mark picked up my phone from the nightstand. I had been careless, I had forgotten to delete a message. When I stepped out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, he was sitting on the bed, holding my phone, his expression unreadable. Who is Jason? He asked quietly. My world froze. My mouth went dry, my knees almost buckled. I forced a shaky laugh. He is just a trainer at the gym. Why? Mark held up the phone. On the screen was a message I had missed. I cannot stop thinking about last night. I need you again. His eyes locked on mine, and for the first time in years, I could not read the man I had promised forever to. That night, I barely slept. Mark said nothing more, but the silence in our bedroom was deafening. I could feel the walls of my double life closing in. Jason's face haunted me on one side, Mark's wounded silence on the other. I knew something was about to break. And when it did, it would destroy everything. The silence after Mark's discovery was more suffocating than any argument could have been. He did not yell, he did not cry, he did not accuse. He simply withdrew into himself. He moved with mechanical calm, helping the kids with homework, washing the dishes, tucking them into bed. But he never looked at me the same way again. His eyes, once filled with warmth, now carried a cold distance that chilled me more than rage ever could. I tried to convince myself that maybe he believed my lie, that maybe I had convinced him Jason was nothing more than a trainer who was too forward in his texts. But deep down, I knew better. Mark was not a fool. He was a man biding his time, gathering the strength to face me with the truth I had been trying so desperately to bury. Jason, on the other hand, was relentless. He called me at night, texted me in the morning, demanding to see me, to know why I was pulling away. When I told him Mark was suspicious, Jason's response was careless. So what? Let him find out. Then you will finally be free to be with me. His words made me sick. For the first time, I realized Jason was not thinking about my family, my kids, or the wreckage of my marriage. He only thought about himself, his wants, his desires. He was not a safe harbor. He was the storm itself. The final blow came on a Sunday evening. Mark suggested a family dinner at home. He grilled steaks, poured wine, played soft jazz from the speaker. On the surface, everything looked normal, almost perfect. But there was a tension in the air that made every bite taste bitter. After the kids went to bed, Mark poured me another glass of wine and sat across from me at the table. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "I read more messages," he said quietly. My chest tightened. I could not breathe. He placed my phone on the table. The screen glowed with Jason's latest text. "When are you telling him? I am tired of being in the shadows." My hands trembled as I reached for the glass. My voice cracked. "Mark. He cut me off. "Do not lie anymore. Not tonight. I want the truth." Tears filled my eyes, but I could not hold them back. I have been seeing him. It started at the gym. I did not mean for it to go this far. Mark closed his eyes and exhaled, a long, heavy breath that carried more pain than anger. 7 years. 7 years of marriage. 2 children. And you risked it all for what? A man at the gym? I tried to reach for his hand, but he pulled away as if my touch burned him. His voice cracked with fury and heartbreak. "You let me cook for you, love you, trust you, while you were giving yourself to another man. Do you understand what you have done to me? To us?" The argument erupted. I tried to explain, to justify the emptiness I had felt, the fire I had been chasing. But every word sounded hollow, selfish, cruel. Mark's voice grew louder, raw with pain. "You betrayed me. You betrayed our children. Do you even realize the damage you have caused?" I broke down, sobbing, begging for forgiveness, but deep down I knew forgiveness was not coming. Mark was a man who built his life on loyalty and honesty, and I had shattered both. The next morning, he packed my bags. He placed them by the front door without a word. When I tried to protest, to cling to him, he looked at me with eyes that were colder than ice. "You cannot stay here. Not after this. The kids will always have me. But you made your choice." Those words cut deeper than any blade. Jason thought he had one. When I showed up at his apartment with tears streaming down my face, suitcase in hand, he smirked and pulled me into his arms. For a few weeks, I stayed with him, trying to convince myself that at least I had not lost everything. But reality hit hard. Jason was not Mark. He was not stable, not patient, not loving in the ways that truly mattered. The passion that once felt intoxicating quickly turned toxic. He grew distant, snapping at me for small things, mocking me when I cried about my kids, refusing to talk about a future together. One night, after another argument, he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I never asked you to ruin your life for me. That was your choice." Those words were the final knife to my chest. Eventually, Jason pushed me away too. I found myself alone, in a small rented apartment, staring at the walls that echoed with regret. I had lost everything: my husband, my home, my children's trust, my community's respect. Mark filed for divorce, and though he allowed me visitation with the kids, the shame in their eyes when they looked at me was unbearable. I thought passion would save me. I thought excitement would fill the emptiness inside. Instead, it burned my life to the ground. Now, when I drive past the gym, I feel sick. When I see families walking hand in hand in the suburbs, I feel the weight of what I destroyed. Mark never forgave me, and I do not blame him. Some betrayals cannot be undone. If there is one truth my story proves, it is this: the thrill of an affair is temporary, but the consequences last forever. I chased passion, and in the end, I was left with ashes. My husband thought I was at the gym. But the truth was far darker. And when it came out, it cost me everything.